Happy Monday morning, guys, and welcome to the morning briefing. Monday, the 21st of August, there's lots to talk about today. I'm joined by Stevie Clifford. Stevie, how are we?
Wonderful, Euan. Had a very pleasant weekend, especially Sunday. It was very jolly. So nice to be here and discussing all things Rangers.
Yeah, apologies for being slightly late today. I wasn't actually supposed to be working until later on this afternoon, but I've been dragged in last minute to host with Stevie. But there's, like we said, there's lots to talk about. Stevie, why was your Sunday so good?
Just because the weather was so nice, Euan. I went in and took in the women's game as well, which was very good. And then during that, there was a couple of flurries of text messages that let me know that there was something going on at Rugby Park. And then, half an hour later, the full-time whistle went there as well. So, yeah, it was a nice wee afternoon, a nice wee bonus for everyone. And then perhaps it'll maybe calm people down slightly.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about the League Cup first. Obviously, Rangers were in action on Saturday against Morton. We were both there, Stevie. I mean, now the dust has kind of settled on that performance. What is your kind of analysis of it? Because I think some fans were quite unhappy by the kind of performance level.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched it back for all my sins, and I think we start quite well. I spoke about this yesterday as well. I think the first 15 minutes we were quite good, created two or three very good chances. Ravi Matondo goes through, good save by Jamie McDonald. And then John Lundstram has an effort just from the edge of the box, which he skies, he should have done better with. And then we have another effort, I think, from Dessers, which is kind of spin volley, which is tipped over. So we start quite well. The issue is, and I've noticed the same thing against Livingston, we seem to start quite brightly. And then it's what happens next. It's the dip after 15, 20 minutes, and we can't really recover to where we want to be. The tempo isn't right. Things look a wee bit rushed at times. And at others, it looks incredibly slow. So in that 45 minutes, you see the good, the bad, the ugly of everything. And obviously, when we're not ahead, the question marks get asked. And then we don't start the second half well. We lose a penalty. And then we come back into it. And this is a problem. Getting Rangers to start the game or continue the game the way they react if they get a setback. And I think that's the problem, because when they do get that setback, they actually, for that 15 minutes, played quite well. Came back, get the penalty, which I've got to be honest, I thought the penalty decision was fortunate at best. I think it's extremely soft. And then we score a good second. It was a good work by Dessers, and then Danilo finishes it quite well. So that side of it, quite pleased. We created it. Ianis Hagi come on, created a lot of decent little opportunities. Jamie McDonald did have a lot of saves. But I want to see more, Euan spoke about this on Saturday as well. I want to see more urgency. At 2-1, go and kill that game off. Morton were literally dead on their feet. And fair play to them. They were very organised and they done well. No complaints about their performance. Very honest, hard-working side. But, we should be doing a lot better. They got through a few times. Jack Butland done very well in goals, a couple of good saves down to feet and stuff like that, and saved from a free kick, a couple of good crosses and stuff. But, Euan, at 2-1, we had breaks and transitional moments, and I spoke about this last week about after the European game, the second half, being frustrated because there was a lot of transitional moments where we're breaking and it's maybe 3-on-3 or 3-on-4, and we've got opportunities, but there's no real desire. There's no clinical cutting edge there. And that troubles me, because at 2-1 with 15 minutes left, go and get a third and kill that game off. Then you can take your time and maybe, knock it about. In the last 8 minutes it's added on, it's not a pressure, but instead we end up having a couple of corners to defend. Everyone's on edge, and they didn't come to anything, but they could have. And that worries me. So there's phases of play that's okay and phases of play that's good. There's other phases of play that looks like we don't know what we're doing and we're rushing things and we're overplaying. And then there's other times where it's just so slow. So there's a real mix in there. But there's a frustration that we don't seem to have an urgency to really kill things off when we should. So it had a bit of everything Saturday. And ultimately, my takeaway was from it, we need to be a whole lot better. And understand that we made 8 changes, so that obviously has a lot to do with it. And it's a cup game. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we still went through. But I'd just like to see a wee bit more consistently performance-wise from the team.
Yeah, I don't think the performance levels where Michael Beale wanted, and he did take responsibility for that, didn't he, Stevie? In the post-match press conference, he said it was on me because I made so many changes and I adjusted the shape. I mean, it shows you how quickly football can change and how the kind of narrative around things can switch. If you look at Saturday after the game to last night when Celtic obviously got beat off Kilmarnock and exited the cup, so that I think it was Brendan Rodgers' first defeat in the cup competition as the Celtic manager. They're obviously out now. Rangers were drawn against Livingston. Obviously, Hibs and Hearts are both still in the tournament, Stevie. But Rangers now, it's a massive opportunity for them to pick up the first silverware of the season.
Yeah, we need to concentrate on ourselves.
Yep.
I think that's quite clear. Rangers need to go up a few levels. But on the narrative thing, it's quite, you're right in what you're saying about how quickly football can change, because social media was a bit of a bin fire on Saturday evening, Euan, with responses and things like that. And I want to address a couple of things and just on the press conference, people maybe never seen it. Michael Beale was asked why he made so many changes and why, and that's when he took responsibility and said, that's on me. The reason he done it, and he clearly stated, was because it gave him the opportunity then on Sunday and Monday to have 2 full training sessions. I think they were doing a double yesterday ahead of PSV on Tuesday. And they wouldn't have had that possibility to do that yesterday had he played a full team against Morton and not mixed it up slightly, because those that play on Saturday then just do a recovery session yesterday. But in having them not playing and most of them available, they were all able to take part and do a double session and really get ready for PSV. So that's the reasoning, folks. And yes, there's a lot of people saying just stick to the big team and get them a wee bit of cohesion and stuff like that. But that's the reasoning, or Michael Beale's reasoning behind it. The second thing is, a lot of people on social media, it seems to be now, you're either patiently waiting and seeing where it's going to go, or it's a bin fire and everyone must be sacked and everyone out. This needs patience. It really does. And a lot of people were saying yesterday, these next 4 could make or break Michael Beale, and and all of a sudden, if he gets beat on Sunday by Celtic, then we could be 6 behind. We could be this. He could be want him out of the job and everything else. People need to calm down. We asked for a revamp. We asked for major changes. There's 11 new players in the door since January. It's not going to be fixed overnight. You see the problems that teams like Chelsea, Man United and stuff are still having. So it needs to be a wee bit more patient. And yes, look, I don't look at it blindly and think that the formation and the performances are all perfect and everything's wonderful and things like that. But it does need time. Michael Beale has got some legitimate questions over him. But there's absolutely no point in us reacting and overreacting to absolutely everything. Now the narrative swung, Euan, as you said. Last night it was suddenly, well, they're out the cup, and if we beat them next Sunday, it's real pressure on them. And that's why we can't overreact to every result. We need to just take one at a time, concentrate on ourselves. That's the only thing that matters. We've got big game tomorrow against PSV, and we should be enjoying it. They're a fantastic side. Some really good individuals, and that'll be a real challenge for us. We'll need to go up several levels. One that we might not have, in all honesty, we might not be ready for. But Ibrox can be rocking, and we can give it a real good go. And the majority of us all said, as long as we get past Servette, we get that parachute payment, Europa League won't be that bad. Now we're here. Everybody's like, oh, we're going to get tanked, and we really need to get past them. Just concentrate on the game and see what happens. Get behind the team and see how it goes, because the negativity isn't doing anyone any good. And we can say, you can give feedback and say, Michael Beale, he's maybe not doing this, he's maybe not doing that, and formation's not right, tempo needs to be better. That's chat. Like, we all understand that. That's what football fans do. But this urgent need for everybody to be like, get him sacked, get him out the door. All these signings are rubbish. It's overreacting to everything. Let's just calm down, give it some time, see where it goes, and take game by game. It's a massive game tomorrow against PSV. It's going to be a packed Ibrox Stadium. Let's just enjoy it and get behind the team.
Yeah, Stevie, thanks for that insight. And if you do enjoy what's happening today, you can give the post a like and subscribe. We've also got the members section where you can get these videos ad-free and also 3 to 5 extra videos a week. So thanks to everyone who does support us so far. Steve, it's interesting when you're kind of providing that perspective and analysis on the situation, because you see the comments coming in, and they are quite split in terms of Beale.
The thing is, like, I'm not sitting naively saying everything's wonderful and Michael Beale is infallible and he's not making mistakes. That's not the case at all. But what I'm saying is, if we react to every single result, every single performance with just, get him out, get him sacked and things like that, what would happen if we did sack Michael Beale after getting beat away to Kilmarnock on the first day of the season? What manager worth their salt is going to go, do you know what? I fancy that job. What do you get? One game? I fancy taking over. And we'll just turn into a circus. It needs a wee bit of stability. We need to stick with it. And listen, see if it comes to Celtic and we get annihilated, or it comes to PSV and we get a hammering and things are really going south and stuff like that, then I'll understand, and then I'll start to think perhaps people have got a point and what they're saying is correct and stuff like that. At the moment, I'm trying to be fairly balanced about it. We wanted a big revamp. It was always going to be difficult when you lose the quality of players that we lose, regardless of how they were performing. But this revision that, Alfredo Morelos would suddenly be better than Danilo and stuff like that. Alfredo Morelos never kicked a ball for the last 18 months. So let's get it right when we talk about that. Last season he was missing up until he got injured under Gio. He was slightly better before that. He was a nightmare as well. So there's a lot of revision going on about with where we actually are and what's happened. So I'm just asking for a wee bit of perspective when we're going on about it, because such a huge opportunity tomorrow night, such a big game. Let's just make Ibrox as noisy as we can and go and enjoy it and see where it takes us. Are we favourites? We're probably not. And is it a tough tie? It absolutely is. But I remember the days, when Rangers were always good on European nights against these big sides and giving it a real go under Steven Gerrard, stuff like that, Porto games and things like that. And these weren't that long ago. So let's go and give us a real good go and see where it takes us. But the negativity and sack everybody and all that, it really doesn't help anyone.
Just talk about kind of revisionism there, and it kind of leads us on to perhaps Ianis Hagi. Stevie, we were both present at the press conference. You were at the front, I was up the back recording. I mean, he was strong with what he had to say, Janis Hagi. After the game on Saturday, he was clearly frustrated about not playing. He came out and he spoke quite honestly. He defended his record. He admitted he wasn't, happy to be on the bench against Morton. He said he just feels, I think it was in response to your question actually, Stevie, I think he said, I feel fitter than I've ever been in regards to his injuries. I mean, I actually wrote about it during the game. It was when I was doing my analysis. One of my points, even before Hagi came out, was I kind of thought, if Ianis Hagi isn't going to start against Morton in the League Cup, when is he going to get a start? And when he came out, it kind of backed up kind of what I said in that point. A lot of supporters, maybe after what Ianis has said, have called for him to be in the team. I mean, where do you sit with kind of the Ianis Hagi situation?
It was an interesting press conference. I enjoyed it, Euan, because I don't want anyone to be sitting there and go and be happy that they weren't playing in a League Cup tie against Morton and think that, it's okay. He obviously wants to play, he loves football, and I loved his response. I really did. I don't want players being happy with not getting a game. So, with regards to how he spoke and the things he said, I've got no issue with it. Where I am with Ianis Hagi, I thought Ianis Hagi had a really good cameo, had a really good half an hour on Saturday. What I liked about him was, and this is a big difference, I think, from maybe what we've seen before, is every time he got the ball and received the ball, he popped it off and he moved. It was good movement. He tried to make things happen. Didn't always come off. He had a couple of wayward shots. And he had a couple that were really close. He forced, I think, a really good save as well from McDonald when he tipped it over. And he looked like he had a point to prove. So, all in all, I don't think Ianis Hagi could have done much more on Saturday, maybe in terms of hitting the back of the net, which he was unlucky with. But for a cameo-wise and to help the team and kind of drive them on, I think he played his part. The other situation, Euan, is that, and this is twofold, I think, for me, Sam Lammers had a really good pre-season, but he's not kicked on domestically. I think that's completely fair. He seems to be a confidence player, which we've seen in the past, but if you ask me who's in the better position to play on Tuesday night, the answer would probably be Ianis Hagi. However, if we're going to play Sam Lammers as a 10 unit, we need to play quick, fast football and give him, because he gets in space and that space can go quickly if we don't pop it off to him and get it off to him quickly. And you've seen the one good move in the first half. I think one of the ones that we had, he was heavily involved because we got the ball to him quickly. If we don't play his style of football, it's not going to suit him. And a lot of people said about Desser's first half on Saturday as well. The amount of times Rangers got into the final third and the cross or the pass was overhit was unbearably annoying, basically. Sterling had a good game defensively, positionally good, but his delivery wasn't up to speed. Rabbi Matondo, again, was very good, very bright, but his final ball most often was overhit. If we're signing guys like Dessers and Danilo and Lammers and stuff like that, you have to get the delivery, you have to get the balls into them correct. Otherwise, they are going to be missing. So, yes, I think Sam Lammers needs to do more than he did on Saturday, but there's the other side to it is if we're going to use a player like that, much like if Ianis Hagi had been there, he wouldn't have had much difference either because we weren't using him properly. In the second half, when there was footballers coming on and it began to move a wee bit quicker and we went behind and we had to recover, we did actually use Ianis Hagi a lot better. So it's twofold for me. But in terms of where Ianis Hagi is, I don't think he's done himself any harm at all in his performance on Saturday. But I'm with you. If Ianis Hagi isn't starting against Morton, when is he going to get a game? And I understand the need for Lammers and Dessers to get games, etc. And that maybe a wee bit of where they are in terms of starting against PSV that they started at the weekend. But, I think we need more. And Ianis Hagi certainly didn't do himself any harm. I'm not entirely sold on Ianis Hagi, but I can't fault his performance, his cameo role at the weekend.
Yeah, no, I thought he was decent when he came on. It was quite obvious that he was really trying to impress, wasn't it? I think he had 3 or 4 shots. He had one after a good turn that went really, really close as well. I think the thing for Hagi for me is that maybe people are forgetting maybe some of his deficiencies just after his comments, and people are thinking get him in the team straight away. I'm not sure that Ianis Hagi has a long-term future at Rangers if he's not starting against Morton. A lot of fans are saying he should get an opportunity to play. I do agree with that as well. I think he should get a chance to show what he can do. Would you play him against PSV, Stevie?
I think that's a big question. If you ask me who you would play between Sam Lammers and Ianis Hagi at the moment, it would be Ianis Hagi because he's earned it. And I don't think Sam Lammers has. But, it's a difficult one. I've not really thought about how we're going to set up. If I was offered it or asked the opportunity of who I was going to play in the 10 role, to be honest with you, and the answer would be Todd Cantwell. At this moment in time, I don't think Sam Lammers would be in my team. It's going to be interesting to see how he actually sets it up. I think the midfield, maybe, and we'll probably talk about this more tomorrow, but I think Ryan Jack does come back in. I think Jack plays next to Cifuentes and Raskin, so I think Cantwell automatically goes forward one. Danilo will come in and start. I think that's fairly obvious. So who's the other one? Who else comes in there? And I think that's up for grabs. Rabbi Matondo offers that bit of width, but he's not in the European squad. So unless there's a last-minute change, which might be a question for the manager today, then he's not an option. So it's going to be interesting. I think what Ianis Hagi's maybe done is planted a seed in Michael Beale's mind. I think if we were given the opportunity, he maybe is in and amongst it. But as I said, I'm not entirely sure that we play a brand of football in the first half that Ianis Hagi would do much better with either. And when he does come on, Morton obviously have opened up a wee bit more and they're starting to tire as well. So there's a lot of ways to look at how that went on Saturday. But what I would say and what would balance it off is that he didn't do himself any harm, but Sam Lammers did not do himself any favours either, and we didn't do him any favours. So it's a bit of a conundrum, that question, Euan. I think I don't have a definitive yes or no for it. It's one of those ones where I'm not entirely sold either way.
Yeah, should you say on the European squad, we didn't put anything out on this because there was obviously the list on the UEFA website, wasn't there? It kind of emerged on, I think it was like Thursday or Friday, and people were talking about, the fact that there'd been no changes from the previous week, and I think Malik Tillman wasn't in the PSV squad, was he?
No, it wasn't.
So we checked it out. I mean, that wasn't the confirmed squad as of then. That could well be the squad that goes in. But our understanding is that wasn't actually the confirmed squad at the time, but it could well be the same squad. So
Yeah.
you
can still make. I think you can make 2 changes, wild card changes, up until tonight as well. So we've got time. And what happened at the weekend, maybe knocks and things may change it. So there is. I think there's. We'll wait for that confirmation. As you said, there is the press conference today at Ibrox, so we can maybe get, I think, 2:30, so we can maybe get some answers on that from the manager and see where that goes.
Yeah, it's a good point, Stevie. There's two press conferences there, isn't there? Because obviously Rangers one and PSV are holding their press conference today at Ibrox as well. So if we check our YouTube pages, our social media channels around between probably around about 2:30 to 3 o'clock, we should have Michael Beale, what he's got to say up there. And later in the day, the PSV press conference will be up. They'll be training on the pitch, I imagine, before the game. Just lastly on the weekend, before we kind of look at this PSV game a little bit more, Stevie, did any player impress you? Did any player stand out and put their hand up and say, I should be in contention? I think from a personal point of view, I thought Ravi Matondo had another decent game, especially first half. He was Rangers' real out ball. He took on the right back all the time. Young John Lefko had a good game as well. I thought he played in a different couple of positions. He kind of started at left back and he moved to kind of centre back when Beale made tactical changes. And another one, Michael Beale, he singled out Cyril Dessers and thought Dessers had a more improved game. He also had a goal and assist. What did you make on the players that played at the weekend? Did anyone kind of stand out for you and put their hand up?
I think that, aside of the ones you mentioned, I think that Jose Cifuentes continues to look a very decent player. I think he goes through a power of work. He covers a lot of ground. And I think he adds a nice wee balance to that right side. I actually thought that Kieran Dowell, when we went a goal behind, came into a game and tried to force it and played quite decent stuff. I agree with you on Ravi Matondo, although, again, his final ball wasn't a lot there. On Dessers, I'll make the point again that I made earlier on. You sign a big guy, get the crosses right to him, because they weren't. There was nothing for him to do. The one half chance he had in the first half, he swivels and powers in a volley. The boy tips over. He takes the penalty well, and he recovers the ball well, and his pass is spot on for Danilo to take in his stride to score. Danilo, I thought, looked sharp when he come on. Side of that, Euan, probably not a lot. Just Butland had a good game. He had too much to do for a home game against Morton. No disrespect to a championship side. We shouldn't be needing the goalkeeper as much as we did, but I thought he was really comfortable and he'll prove to be a good save. I think, there is going to be a moment or two with Jack Butland. He's always been like that through his career. He had one with a long throw, I think, in the last minute, and we ended up getting a corner. So it was a wee bit at times. But other than that, no, I don't think, the ones we spoke about, obviously Ianis's wee cameo, Danilo's cameo and stuff were good. But I think overall, individual performance-wise, I don't think anyone really that started or come into it from the changes done themselves massive favours, has been standouts. I think the ones we mentioned had good games, but when you look at that team, the likes of John Suter, obviously Barisic, Tavernier will come back in, and then Raskin, Cantwell and stuff like that as well. Danilo's going to start, so it's going to be a lot different. But this maybe goes back to, I still think we're missing. There's something not quite right up front. We're missing a dynamic there somewhere. Now, when we're playing Dessers and Danilo with Lammers, it seems to go two with just the one behind. That's the way they play. But when they're out of possession, it splits to a three. And this is where I think that people are kind of going on about the lack of width and stuff like that. And I get it, because when we're attacking, it's supposed to be fullbacks up, which when you see the second half against Servette, that works, and it should work if they're doing it properly. However, when they're out of possession and Danilo needs to go left and Lammers needs to go right with, Dessers in the middle, I don't think they're comfortable doing that. Danilo's not really comfortable left. Sam Lammers isn't going to track back. He's not going to do it. And he's not comfortable on that right side. So Tav is getting exposed quite a lot. And I've noticed from watching the European game and stuff back as well, and watching the performances so far, that's kind of where I am with it. So I'm not sure that the way we are set up, both in attack and off the ball, out of possession, we're completely comfortable. So I think there's a wee change, or there's a tinker or a little move that they need to do there to make it more fluent. Euan, does that make sense?
No,
To
yeah.
make them more comfortable. And I just don't think they do. And I think that is having an overall effect on how we're attacking and what we're trying to do in games, not only on but off the ball and defensively as well. Because teams are getting in a lot because we're very narrow. And I think that's natural by having guys that aren't defensively minded. Ryan Kent was very good at getting back and shuffling back and things like that. The right side, even Malik Tillman used to do a hell of a lot of ball recoveries and things like that as well. Stat-wise, he was always very high with pressures and things like that. I think we've really missed that in our formation. So what Beale has to figure out is, and I think this is a huge thing, and it's also, I think, why we've looked clumpy a lot at times during games. He needs to either fix that, or he needs to sort the personnel that he's playing. Does he go with just Danilo or Dessers and swap them? Does he need to then, as he's alluded to, do we need that winger? Would Ravi Matondo come right into it? So there's questions. There's that front line, I think, is the biggest issue. I think the midfield looks okay. Defensively, I'm still thinking we need another centre-back somewhere. The full-backs are, the fullbacks are the fullbacks. It's going to be an ongoing kind of thing. But when you see what we missed on Saturday, then you can see why they do play and how much would it cost to maybe upgrade those and things like that. So is it more important that we get a winger before we get fullbacks, or a centre back before we get fullback? There's a few questions, but I really think Euan, forward line isn't overly dynamically convincing at this moment in time, the way they're set up on and off the ball. So that's a little conundrum I think he has to fix and fix as quickly as possible. And I think when that does click, I think we'll see hopefully some more fluency. And yeah, I mean, he's right to point out we are creating more chances, but that's something that I think, in my mind, we've got a slight issue with there.
Yeah. Neil McLean agreeing with you there, Stevie. About everything, really. A lot of positive comments, Stevie, about your analysis there. If you are watching and you are enjoying it, do smash the like button. It does help us, so it is appreciated. A couple more comments about the press conferences at 2:30 today. So expect us to have it up around about 3:00. It'll be Michael Beale will face the media. We'll also have a live press conference reaction video with Joshua and myself, probably in between the Rangers press conference and the PSV press conference at Ibrox. Stevie, I mean, you kind of alluded to it there. There's just over, 10 days left of the transfer window. You're looking at an attacking player and a centre-back. That's probably the two areas you can perhaps see business. At centre-back, it might rely on a player going out the way. You expect that player to be Ben Davies, but, from what we hear, he's quite happy at Rangers, and it doesn't look like he particularly wants to go the other way. He was training last week. I asked Neil Banfield about Davies and Yilmaz on Friday's press conference, but Banfield kind of said Beale would address that. So that's another one to ask Michael Beale about today. Will Ben Davies or Ridvan Yilmaz be available? There's actually open training. 50 minutes of training today is open at 11 a.m. I won't be there, but you might be able to see who's not training from that footage. So
Ben Davies was fit and trained all last week. We know that from the pictures and things like that. Yilmaz, I think, was later in the week, supposedly joined in. I don't know if he did. So, yeah, you're right to question that. But Ben Davies, let's be honest about it. Rangers want Ben Davies out. He's quite happy to stay. Rangers want Glenn Kamara out. We need to speed those deals up if we're going to then be able to free up, I think, wages and squad positional wise to replace these guys. And in answer to your question, I think a winger is really essential. Somebody that can add something a wee bit different and maybe be that little position that's going to make the difference in the forward three that I just don't think's right, as I spoke about a minute ago. I think that's essential. I think a centre-back is really important. And if they get that, Euan, it's interesting because if they get a centre-back and they're really comfortable and they're happy with him, I can see it being centre-back, Suter, Goldson and going 3. That might be an option, and Beale spoke about that, and I wonder if his reluctance so far is the fact that centre-back wise, we've maybe not got that third player that come in. You know, Balogun's good cover, Leon King is a good player, maybe not ready for full exposure yet, perhaps. So I'm wondering where, if he does spend on a centre-back, who's maybe going to come in. Because let's be honest, like John Suter's a very good centre-back, but had a bit of a ropey night in Servette. Leon Balogun's a good centre-back to come in, had a ropey game on Saturday. So this is the kind of conundrum you face with these guys slightly. So, and I think Connor Goldson is a very good defender, but has moments. So we need to get somebody in that can possibly partner and come in and be that steady and rock. You know, in years gone by, for the really good Premier League winning teams we've had, at this point, Rangers have brought in a Queller or a Bagheera to partner, and they've been really sensational. So we need to somehow find a gem like that. And I'm not sure that in these day and age you'll pick up these guys with the kind of 2.5 million we have. But in answer to your question, a winger, I think, is the one. A centre back as well, I think, is the one. Now, if you offered me fullbacks, I would be right there. But I don't see that happening unless, you know, Tav and Barisic suddenly went, unless Yilmaz went as well. So I still think, you know, you said 10 days. I still think there's business to be done for Rangers. I still think there's going to be things happening both in and out, and we'll see where it takes us. But I'm extremely hopeful that another 2 will come in, and I definitely think if you were at you and see if you ask me right now, which one would you want? I'm going for an attacking forward, a winger, somebody that can do something a bit different. And I realise that that's going to cost money, and it's, you know, it's a difficult player to find. But I think in terms of where we are and what we really, really need, could we get by with Suter and Goldson, and can they be strong enough as centre-backs? I would say yes. Are they going to make mistakes at times? Yes. Up front at the moment is more of an issue to me because it's not right. It's not clicking, to go back to what I said before. So that's where I would go first and try and address it. Now, I understand people might think differently, and that's, you know, I don't disagree with people then going, well, I'd go centre-back. That's totally fine. But for me, I think we need something different up front, and it's trying to find that player that's going to be the big challenge. But hopefully they have identified. They've had a whole summer to do it. This shouldn't be a surprise, I don't think. So hopefully, you know, identifying that guy to come in is going to be the one that makes a difference.
Yeah, no, I think you raised some good points, Stevie. This won't be too popular in the comments. It's not my opinion, but it's something I can envisage Michael Beale doing. Maybe even in these Champions League games, if he's going to go with 3 centre-backs, I wouldn't be surprised if John Lundstram played at right centre-back. You've seen it on the game against Morton. Lundstram dropped into that position, and he has done it quite a lot over the years. I think it's far from ideal, but I think with the players that are available, I think that could be an option. We'll talk about Dujon Sterling as well, Stevie, because...
Euan, I was going to say something, and this might be even more controversial. I would rather have John Lundstram as a centre-back than a centre midfield. He's far too slow in midfield. I'm sorry if this is divisive and people think it's criticism, and I just think John Lundstram takes 2-3 more touches and really is necessary. When he goes to centre-back, he seems to be able to, he's under less pressure and pop it off, and it's a lot quicker. You know, at times on Saturday, I think he had one tremendous run down the right full-back, and he put in a great cross which Sima hit the bar with. I don't see that in midfield for John Lundstram. I'm sorry. The way we need to play and the speed we want to go at, and being able to find guys like Lammers and stuff like that, I'm not sure there's a place for John Lundstram. Now, there's 2 ways to look at this. One, people will maybe say, Stevie, John Lundstram's not an overly big favourite of yours anyway. Fine. So I understand that. Other people might see more of it. But I do think John Lundstram as a centre-back for us is an ideal solution. But if you offered me the 2, I would rather he was back. Maybe not for the big Champions League games where he's going to be put under that critical pressure and stuff like that. But see, for Scottish SPL games where if we're going to use that system and he'll have time and things like that, I would rather have him there than in the midfield when I think he's too slow. So I appreciate that might be divisive and some folk might not agree, but it's just the way I see it with him.
Yeah, no, I don't think John Lundstram is the most popular player amongst supporters at the moment, but I think that he is still quite highly regarded by Beale, and I think that kind of right centre-back role in a back three possibly does suit him better than midfield, especially in certain games when Rangers have to move the ball quickly. I don't think that suits John Lundstram's game. And you were right, there was that overlapping run from centre back when he whipped the ball, and I think it was it Seema hit it off the bar later in the game. So we'll talk about Dujon Sterling, Stevie. I thought he had quite a difficult full debut at right back. I think he was tasked with almost replicating that James Tavernier role and playing high up in the right. If you actually watched it in the first half, while Sterling went really high in the right, Yefko kind of tucked in. They had different roles, and the reason for that was that Ravi Matondo provided the width in the left, and Sam Lammers kind of tucked in. So Sterling provided it on the right-hand side. He didn't have his best game, I don't think, Dujon Sterling. There was a couple of balls into the box which weren't great. I mean, I did feel for him a little bit because I don't think that's where his skill set lies. I think he's definitely stronger from a defensive point of view of his defensive work than he is going forward. Obviously, playing there for Rangers, if he was to play regularly, you'd be expected to bomb on, just given how much Rangers dominated the ball in the majority of the games. Could he be a player that comes into that right centre-back role? I mean, what was your kind of analysis of his full debut?
Yeah, just what you said. I think I commented on it before that I thought defensively, positionally, and he got up the right flank really well. His deliveries weren't good in the slightest. Let's not try and sugarcoat it. They were overhit quite a lot. And, I think that they were quite poor. Now, I'm in agreement with you. I think he's a kind of old-fashioned, defensive-minded. We used to get this a lot, and people need to cast their mind back away when Advocat first came in, when Sergio Perini first went to right back, who was a centre-back by trade, and he looked okay at right back, positionally, defensively, really good. But when he went forward, sometimes we had the same issue with crossing and things like that, and that killer instinct. That comes from having, on the left side, we had Afra Newman, who was much more bombing forward. So that was the dynamic there. Sterling, I think, will be absolutely fine for Rangers. In the same way as I think Kieran Dowell will be absolutely fine. There's been a lot of kind of things written. I think Dowell will be a handy player. I think Sterling will be a handy player as well. I remember watching Calvin Bassey, and he played in a cup game against St Mirren in the 3-2 game where Rangers got beat and they got put out at that last minute. And everybody trashed Calvin Bassey and wrote him off. And then look what happened to him. So bad games happen. Players play badly. We need to figure out what's best for Dujon Sterling. He's not been in the building, a couple of months. He didn't have an overly great attacking game, but I think defensively he could be one that the right side of the centre-back might work for him in certain games, yeah, because I think he's more tactically suited to defending than he is pushing on and being an attacker. So I've got no worries about him. Genuinely, I've not. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be a solid investment. And even, you know what, Euan, same with Kieran Dowell, said this before, these are low risk because they're English born and stuff like that. You'll still find a suitor for them down south if things went drastically wrong and they didn't settle in. So I don't think these are players we overly need to worry about, and I think they'll make a good impact. I think Sterling will be just fine for Rangers. Figuring out where's best for him, maybe right side of centre back in a 3 might work for him. We just need to give him time and find out where exactly they're going to be best placed. But I'm not putting too much emphasis either way on Saturday. I think he was fine. I do think delivery in his attacking side, delivery final ball, kind of let him down, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think it's just obviously getting acclimatised to the club and things like that as well. I rate Dujon Sterling quite highly. I don't think he had his best game on Saturday. There's no point dressing it up. Stevie, thanks very much. Unless there's anything else you want to talk about, you've been great this morning. I've had loads of people watching today, so thanks very much for that. Like we said, we'll have loads of content on our YouTube channel today. I think you're going as well to the press conference, Stevie?
Yeah, I spoke about this actually, funnily enough, Euan, for all you people, car people out there that was seen me talk about it a couple of weeks ago. Turned out it was my brakes, Euan. Apparently your brakes sit in something called a shoe and it all clips in. Well, that clip in the shoe had snapped and I had to get that replaced. So I'm good to go for today and I'm quite looking forward to it. I've got a few things in mind to ask the manager. Obviously on Saturday, for those people, it's maybe worth, commenting. We did ask him about tempo and is there, why are we only producing kind of patchiness in games and things like that? So his answer, as you alluded to earlier, he did take responsibility for that. But I think, where we are at the moment, Euan, and just to reiterate maybe what I said before, is that I don't sit here, and we don't sit here. We talk quite a lot, and we talk on match days. We're not sitting here saying everything's wonderful and Michael Beale's, doing everything perfectly and the formation's great and all the new players are wonderful. It's not that. I'm just a wee bit more balanced in terms of saying we are seeing some good. We're not seeing all good, and there's some bits that are really we need to do a lot better in. So I'm still hopeful. See, by tomorrow morning, I'll be sitting here going, "Oh, we'll win 2-0 tonight," because that's just me. But I'm really looking forward to it. We've got such a big game in Europe. It's such a big atmosphere, and it'll be a cracking night. And I just want Rangers to get right into them and have a good go. Let's really go and chase it. Let's go and force it. It'll be a difficult game. They're a really, really good side. But I happen to think we are capable of being a really good side as well. So we'll talk about this tomorrow morning, but I'm really looking forward to it. We'll get the press conference coverage later on today and stuff like that. You and I'll see you there. And just looking forward to it. Let's enjoy it. The weekend actually went well for us, despite not being an overwhelmingly brilliant performance. And we don't get moments too often like this. We've got a real opportunity in the League Cup now, absolutely. So take it a game at a time and see where it takes us, and maybe give them a break a wee bit and get behind them as best we can. And it doesn't need to be all hand wringing and saying everything's perfect, not at all. But tomorrow's night's a big one, and they're going to need the crowd. So let's do our level best.
Yep, Steve will be back tomorrow. I imagine you'll talk more about the PSV game and run through what teams you'd play for that. Like we said, we keep a check on our social media channels between 2:30 and 3. We'll try and get Michael Beale's press conference up for you guys as quick as possible from Ibrox. Joshua and I will have a live video just going over Michael Beale's points soon after that. Steve might even pop in, actually, if you're there as well. Might try and get you on as well. Double dose of Stevie today. And yeah, we'll be back tomorrow with the morning briefing. Guys, thanks very much to everyone who's tuned in. There's been loads of you today. Cheers for all the likes and the positive comments. We'll see you later on.